Hello everybody and welcome to the Cyclical Investors Club YouTube channel. My name is Corey Kramer and today we're going to be analyzing Booking Holdings and also Expedia. I've had requests for both of these stocks down in the comments section of some of my other videos, and so I put them on the whiteboard behind me, and now I'm going to share a video analysis. If you have a stock you'd like me to take a look at and make a video analysis of, just put it down in the comments. If it's in the S&P 500, I post those on YouTube for free. The rest I post over on Patreon, which is $5 a month. So if it's a smaller cap stock or something that's not in the S&P 500, you can request those analysis and I post the videos over there. And if you also join the Patreon at $5 a month, you get a big discount if you ever decide to join the full Cyclical Investors Club service over on Seeking Alpha. And that is where I have like all the spreadsheets, chat room, explanations of all my strategies. Basically, you can contact me anytime. Usually I get back to people pretty quick with answering anyone's questions. So definitely check those links out down in the description. And there will also be one straight to Seeking Alpha, to the Cyclical Investors Club down there if you just want to go straight there. And I also have a 25% off affiliate link down in the description for Fast Graphs, which is the graphing service you'll see me using here during this analysis. With that, let's get into the analysis. As always, this is not individual investing advice. This is just how I analyze stocks. Let's actually start with Expedia. So I actively track bookings. I don't actively track Expedia right now, but it does seem like I check in on it every now and then. So my take on Expedia is I think their growth years are mostly behind them. Like they bought up or merged with a lot of other online travel booking places since kind of the .com era through about, this time period here. I'm not sure when the last big one they bought was. But so they kind of merged with most of the competition other than maybe Booking. And since then, they haven't really been able to grow a whole lot. So if you look at the stock performance the past 10 years, it's basically flat to down depending on when you bought it. Maybe if you bought it on a dip back here, you might be in the green a little bit. But really, the stock hasn't gone anywhere for the past 10 years. Now, if you look at the adjusted operating earnings, which is this dark green area, they have been growing, ex-COVID, and then they've bounced back since then. But if you look at just the basic earnings, they've been a little bit weaker. They reflect a little bit more probably what the non-growth of the stock. And for me, I just think that they've kind of grown as much as they can, and now they have a lot of competition that they're facing. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything bad's going to happen to Expedia. It's hard to invest in it when it's hard to see where the new growth is going to come from. If there's several, I would say, competitive problems or issues or challenges. One is in terms of hotel bookings. A lot of the bigger hotel chains like Marriott and Hilton are really pushing their loyalty programs to direct book. So the type of discounts that you used to be able to get through Expedia, you can now get the same deal pretty much if you just book through Hilton. And I know Hilton for sure, and I'm sure Marriott has the same type of thing. So it's a way for the hotel chain franchises to kind of cut out the middle person. And nowadays, when you have kind of points credit cards and things like that, that gives even more advantages to the hotel chains compared to kind of a third-party aggregator like Expedia. That doesn't mean there isn't going to be business for Expedia. It's just that there's competition for those hotel bookings. On the flights end, you sort of have the same thing with points cards and things like that, where you can get better deals if you book directly with the airlines, but you also have Google Flights. And so there's competition there. And then when you look at Vrbo, you have that's pretty good because the only other competition that I know of is Airbnb. But Airbnb seems to be a little bit more nimble. I'm long Airbnb stock, I should say. I like that their prospects a little bit better just because they have a lot more flexibility. I think there's a little bit more of a value proposition there if there's an economic downturn. But I mean, I do like Vrbo, but it's, generally speaking, it's hard to grow. It's going to be hard to grow too much bigger than it is now, I think. So for that reason, I just don't get too excited, and I don't actively track Expedia stock. That doesn't mean it, like, if they really do get this growth that analysts are predicting, I imagine the stock price would go higher. So, but it's just hard for me to kind of envision that happening. So I could be wrong, but that's what I think. Booking, I like more. I do actively track this one. If you look at its history, excluding COVID, earnings growth has been really fantastic, very steady, and continues to rise kind of on track. Now, one thing to keep in mind, let's go ahead and get into the valuation here, which I'm going to use like from 2016 to forecasted 2024 earnings, excluding the COVID years, at least like probably these three. So it looks on the fast graph like they have like 13 or 14% earnings growth, but they've bought back about 1/3 of the company's stock during this time. So they buy back a lot of stock, and that will inflate the earnings per share and also usually make them look steadier like they are now. So when I take those buybacks into account, I get a growth rate that's closer to like 8 or 9%. Okay. So I'm going to use a pretty conservative earnings growth rate. If a person was just doing the basic math themselves, they might look and say a 23 PE growing at 14%. I mean, that's looking pretty attractive, right? But you got to remember that a lot of that's coming from the stock buybacks, and I like to assume that I keep all the earnings as a business owner rather than spend them to buy back stock to inflate the earnings per share. So with the more conservative earnings growth estimate, let's calculate kind of the valuation here. I mean, kind of see where it's going to end up. But the way I like to think about this is if I bought Booking for $100, it would earn me back $8.73. Actually, that's wrong. This is the growth rate. If I bought Booking for $100, it actually has net cash, it looks like, too. So I take that into account and reduce this stock price just slightly. So getting back to where I was saying, if you bought the whole business for $100, the earnings yield is 4.82%. So you would earn $4.82 on your $100. And I have that growing at that 8.73% or 8 to 9% or so. So I pull the first year's growth forward. So I assume I would earn $5.24 in my first year. And then that 482 would compound each year for 10 years. And I want to see how much I would earn on my $100 in 10 years, which looks like about $78.62. And then I convert that to a CAGR return, and it looks like it's at about 6%. So when the price goes down, the returns go up, right? So at 6.5%, that's kind of my just rough fair value for stocks. And so it's a little bit under that, but it's definitely in kind of that fair value range to me right now. Now, if I was going to buy it with a little bit of margin of safety, I want this to be 8%. I want this 10-year expected earnings return to be 8%. And that would be around $2,530 per share. And the recession PE is almost the same at $2,619 per share. So basically, the stock would need to fall about 30% in order for it to have a margin of safety and for me to step in and buy it. I think there's a decent chance that could happen with like a little mini downturn. So it's definitely worth tracking. I would keep those numbers in mind, something close to that 2,600-ish level. And I'd probably step in and buy at that point. Now, I actually this is probably the only, other than Airbnb, which I own, and I own it with a different strategy. It's more of a growth strategy. in a very long term. I like the hotel chain, the hotel franchises better, like the businesses. I just think they're more sustainable. It's just a matter of getting them at the right price. I've done videos on Hilton, and I think I did one on Marriott, and I know I did one on Hilton, and I might have done one on Marriott too. So I like those if I could get those at the better price. So in this kind of industry, Booking is one I would be willing to buy. Marriott I would be willing to buy. Hilton I would be willing to buy. Airbnb I do own. The other three would just need to get to the right price, basically. Definitely kind of high enough quality businesses. And I think they're the type of businesses, if you got them at a good price, you could probably hold them for the long term. And those would be the ones I would aim for rather than Expedia, which is okay, but it's just not, I don't have as much confidence in it longer term. So that's where I stand on this one. If you have a request, put it down in the comments section. I'll get it on the whiteboard behind me, and eventually I will make a video for you. I've been making about 5 videos a week, plus a few over on Patreon that don't get released here. There's a free level over on Patreon too. I've been posting kind of sporadically as I read books, chapters in books. I've been posting some of my thoughts on that over there that I haven't posted on the YouTube channel. So that is a benefit that's free over there. And I also post all these videos on Patreon as well. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see everybody later.